That's Just TMI with your hosts, Dee and Sir Dre.
Yes. Was it Capleton that said, after we left from Jamaica, Fernando, greeting the people for sure, and so knock on your door.
Screaming.
Something like that. Okay, fine.
Something like that.
I just wanted you to know that I'm...
Welcome back to That's Just TMI.
Yes.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, man.
I don't know if you can tell, I'm pinning my teeth from ear to ear. So excited.
Just like the Joker. Okay, whatever.
Yes, sure.
Okay.
So, as promised, we said we were going to talk about the Canadian dream, what it looks like.
Yeah.
We took some experiences from friends and family, and we're gonna bring it to you right now.
Yeah.
So,
this is incredible.
I know!
Like right now, we're at like Airport Road in Toronto.
Yep.
The airport is like behind us.
The plane.
Man is like revving up the plane. Plane is taking off.
Yeah, like
You think that plane's going to the US? No US entry.
We're staying within Canada.
Yeah, man. We were born downtown Toronto, Dufferin and Davenport area near the CNE.
Mm-hmm.
Big up downtown. And then when we were about 4 or 5, we moved to Rexdale. Big up the RX.
What is this?
I don't know, I didn't do sign language, but they have some symbols. If you guys know what it is, you guys can fill in the blanks.
What did that look like?
Rexdale.
The Rexall symbol.
Well, it's the same letters, Rexall, Rexdale.
Okay.
Can you just let me finish my
Sorry,
shout-outs?
go ahead. You
You didn't hear me saying anything when you were talking about Montego Bay and Clarendon and Duns River Falls. So let me just finish. And then we went to Scarborough. Yeah, I'm a Scarborough man. Yeah. S.
What?
Well, in the Greek, the X has like a S sound.
Yeah, educate us.
Yeah, so that's it. So anyways, what about you? When did you come?
I came up here when I was 12.
Yeah.
And at first, I used to be so excited that, I had more years in Jamaica than I had in Canada. But now, since I've been here since I was 12 and I'm 27, I've exceeded my time in Canada. At least I think so.
Are you ready to go back?
I mean,
could you
to visit more often. I don't think I could live there.
I know. Because it takes like 45 minutes to order one patty.
I could not live there.
I've been to Jamaica, so I know some of the challenges over there. Like, can I just say this and then we'll come back to the
Yes.
I remember, like, we went there a few years ago. My grandmother passed away, and we went to this store to get like a phone card to charge up the Digicel.
Digicel.
So we get there. And literally the way that the office is like set up, there's a woman in the back and we can see that she's like eating something and we're angling ourselves so that she can see us looking at her.
Yes.
Do you know the woman took another 10 minutes to come?
Why would she rush? She's eating.
You know what? I can't wait for us to talk about the Jamaican dream. Because you know what I think? I think the Jamaican dream the sun has set on that, okay? So in terms of the Canadian experience, now that you're in Canada, in Ontario, in Toronto, and now you're a Scarborough man, is my voice just cracked like Mike Tyson, is this country what you thought it was going to be?
No, I really expected more. So growing up, we used to spend our summers in New York, and we went to New York for some Christmases. So we got to experience some snow. So I wasn't shocked about that. It wasn't my first time coming to foreign. But I expected Toronto to be like New York. That was how I compared it. I wanted the city lights and the parties and just the city that never sleeps. But Toronto definitely sleeps. Like we care a lot about our health and our wealth, and we're early risers apparently. But we close our shops at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, like everybody goes home. So that was kind of thrown for me because I'm like, I'm not expecting this. And then it's a lot cleaner than the states that I've been to south of the border. So that was also shocking because I'm like, this is different. And then it's just filled with people from every culture. So that was also an eye-opening thing, because New York is just like you go there and you can see who New York is. Like as a people. But Canada, Toronto specifically, is so diverse.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not like I could say, okay, I'm going to a city where they're like predominantly black people and that's just it. No, we're
when you
mixed.
say diverse, you know, whenever people move from a different country and they come somewhere, there's this period where they kind of have to adjust. That transition, was it a seamless transition for you?
No.
Okay.
I mean, there are so many things that took place with that transition. So, like trying to get me into school, and they wanted to put me a grade ahead, but then my dad was so convinced that by putting me a grade ahead, I'll miss out on French. Ask me if I can speak French.
No.
Not at all.
I know you can't speak French because your English is a little bit...
Yes. So if my English isn't even 100%, why you want to throw me into another language?
Wow. Okay.
You know?
So your dad had French immersion in mind for you.
Not really French immersion. He just wanted me to go back a grade so that I could start learning French with the rest of the students.
Sure, yeah.
Which I didn't really care about. Yeah. And then it was, you know, in Jamaica, all of my classmates were always black. Right? Okay. So I come to Canada, I now have Asian classmates, Indian classmates, Caucasian classmates. So that was just like, okay. Different cultures and learning to adapt to different names and pronouncing names properly, because you know in Jamaica everyone kind of has like
a nickname,
a generic name or a nickname that you can call them by, that's just easy. But here you call people by
their right name.
Exactly.
There's no aliases in Canada.
No pet name.
Who we're looking for, we find them based on what it says on their birth certificate or their passport.
Yes.
So in terms of coming, right, because I have my own experience as a child of Jamaican parents.
Yeah.
Now your experience, let's talk a little bit about the food culture. Like when you come as a child and your mom's like, yo, Dee Dee, I'm going to give you a plantain and egg sandwich, cut it sideways and send you to school for lunch. Or I'm sure your mom would have done this, and bless her heart, she had good intentions. Did she ever try to send you to school with like cabbage and codfish?
Like grown provisions? Why not? If it's in the house, you take it. You take it to school.
Your mom sent you to school with provisions?
I think maybe once or twice I had it. But
Lord have mercy.
It's probably also because I wanted it. Because, you know, used to.
So you didn't feel a ways?
No.
Okay, so...
And then you have to remember that because when you're fresh from Jamaica... I feel like you just really don't care what anybody thinks.
Okay, that's true.
You're just in your own world. You don't even care if you make friends or anybody like you. You're just like, I'm from Yard. And like this is who I am, and this is my culture, and I'm not changing for anybody up here.
You know, it's interesting you should say that, because as a Canadian child with Caribbean parents, there were times where they would send us with food that we would love to eat at home, but we would be like, nah man, you can't send us to school with provisions. Like one of the things that my mom used to love to give us as kids, she would give us like a plantain sandwich with eggs, toasted and buttered. And here's the thing, at home, that's like sick.
That slaps, it's good.
But when you open up your food at school, and there's a man down there with like French fries, the next brethren with a hamburger, and somebody with fish and chips with gravy. And look, let me just tell you something. There's nothing more difficult to digest through your digestive tract than a cold plantain and egg sandwich. And of course, there were other things too, right? Because we would do ackee and saltfish. Not always, but there were some things, and I can't remember everything. You know, parents would pack it into our lunch, and you open it, and right away, the kids are like, I smell something. I smell that. And you know, after a while, you kind of just say to yourself, I don't want anybody to be like talking about my lunch like it's some kind of like alien from out of space. So you just learn to like conform. And so I don't even know when the transition happened, but you kind of move to now macaroni and cheese. Or, you know what I mean? If you're going to have like bully beef, ground beef, corned beef,
that's it.
You kind of put the rice on top of it.
So that they don't see it and it holds the smell.
And then you kind of eat it. Kind of like,
secretly.
You know, it's like, you know, the yard in prison, and then you hurry up and you go out to recess. And maybe this is part of why we're having this conversation, because I don't know that our situations or experiences are exactly the same, but I feel like Caribbean meets Canada, or Canada by way of Caribbean meets Canada. There are some parallel experiences. So, I don't know.
Like, another experience for sure, like I mentioned, I think it's in this one. I mentioned that your parents may have said something like, you know, back home I couldn't get to do this, or I wouldn't be able to do this at your age, and that I think was a big transition for my parents.
Yeah.
You know, recognizing that in Canada, I may be allowed to do something that in Jamaica would be unacceptable because of whether it's the safety issue, or you know, I may not be young, not be old enough to do it, but in Canada it's acceptable. So it was that transition to recognize that, okay, in the Canadian culture this is allowed, and Deandra wants to be a part of it because we're growing her up in this culture. How do we do that? How do we?
So what about the added pressure? Because I think that especially since you guys come from a British system, when you guys come as Caribbean folk, it just seems like there's this egregious amount of like pressure for you guys to like really thrive. Like, you're not just allowed to like pass with good grades. You're supposed to be like valedictorian from JK all the way up to university. Any of that kind of pressure?
I would say yes and no, not so much, but that's only because of who I am. And
Please
if you
tell them
really know who I am, I can't be put in a box. I can't be told that I need to do X, because if I am told I need to do X, trust and believe I'm finding myself at Y. I'm not going to do X like I'm supposed to. So as much as, yes, I wanted to excel and exceed my parents' expectation, I also knew that if I was unable to, I shouldn't doubt myself, or I shouldn't beat myself up, or I also said, there's two of us. If I don't do it, my sister will, you know? So it's like, my sister can take all that stress and struggle, and I'll just be me and find myself and figure stuff out. But definitely there was a lot of, I don't want to make it sound like my parents were like, but you know, I did hear on and off when I get a 96 or a 98, what happened to the other two, what happened to the other four. But it's like, praise me for the 98 and the 96 and such. And it's not to say that they didn't, but you know, it's we want you to excel because we came to a country to give you more opportunities. So don't let us think that we did it for waste. You know, like you're taking advantage of it, or you're not going as far and above and beyond as you should be.
So here's the thing, and I want to know this one, because I think one of the major differences for you as a black woman coming from the Caribbean in Jamaica is this. In Jamaica, like when I went to Jamaica for the first time, that I actually had sense to know this is Jamaica. One of the things that was so surprisingly interesting to me was watching like black people in everything. Right? It's like black police. Black store owner. When you go to the bank, black people serving you there. When you go to the restaurant, black people. When you go into the country, black farmers. When you go into the city, black people behind the cashier. So like when I went there, I didn't realize it, but I was like, yo, so black people can actually like run things. Now I'm not saying run things instead of, but it's almost like you take for granted your experience until you see another experience. So over here in Canada, Ontario, Toronto, where I'm born, yes, it's extremely diverse, but definitely I would say that there's an underrepresentation of black leadership, black businesses. I mean, when I even think about it, my first black teacher was, I believe, in grade 9. Rest in peace, Mr. Dunstan. That guy was hilarious. He was funny. He was smart. He was my first computer science teacher. And that was the first time that I can remember having a black teacher. But in Jamaica, you might have a dark-skinned black teacher, a light-skinned black teacher, and of course I know at some point we're going to talk about shadeism and those kind of things. Maybe not today, but what did that look like for you now to be moving from a place where you're highly represented to this place where you're underrepresented?
You know, I've never actually thought of it, and when you were talking, I was trying to remember if I had a black teacher from middle school, and I can't remember having a black teacher in middle school, but then in high school I did. I think it's because of the neighborhood we lived in. So I had it there. But to answer your question, now that I'm thinking back on it, I can see how that can impact me. Because, you know, like, I'm not being represented, you know, then if I'm, I'll do it as this. I'm black. I would like to know that I can see black teachers and black professors in universities and see black politicians and see black doctors to make you feel like, you know what, they can do it, so can I. You know, they've broken down some barriers so that I can, you know, take the torch and carry the rest of the way. But when you looking back at it now and recognizing that most of my educators were Caucasian or Indian.
And they were great teachers.
They were 100% great teachers. But it would have been nice, like you're saying, to see the representation of more black educators and more people that would make it easier for me to relate to. You know, whether it be some sort of bullying or whatever is taking place in the school, or even something that I may notice and I would like to say, oh, we need more black representation. I find that it's often hard to relay that and to someone that's not of the same culture, because they're not going to understand the same struggles.
So for you then, you never actually noticed it. Like for me, I noticed it, and I'll tell you, maybe one of the reasons why I noticed it in a different kind of way when I would have been younger is, it's funny, you know, from Monday to Friday, you're in this public school, and in those days where we grew up at Kipling and Steeles, it was diverse. There were a lot of different cultures there. But certainly, as far as I can remember, mostly white teachers. But on Sabbath, right, because we're Sabbath keepers, on Saturday when we would go to our Seventh-day Adventist church located at 10 Harvey Avenue at Lansdowne and St. Clair. See, I remember it. We would walk into church, and it was almost like it was a brand new world. You know what I'm saying? Like the pastor was black. The associate pastor would have been black, or at least a person of color. 99% of the congregation, by the time, you know, I would have been born in the church in the mid 70s, everybody was black. So you're looking at these two different worlds. And the truth is, we never slept at our friends from school. We weren't allowed to be at their houses. We could play street hockey. We could go to the convenience store. But in terms of our world and where we were allowed entry and where we were safe and those kinds of things, that was at church. And that was through our church friendships and those families. And so when I think about, you know, like the Canadian experience through the lens of a Canadian kid of Jamaican parents, now that I'm older and I'm starting to evaluate, you realize that maybe it's not as diverse. I mean, it's diverse because so-and-so lives there and so-and-so lives there. But it just almost feels like there's this community that you're in. You're a part of it because you have a postal code, but you're not part of the community.
That's interesting.
Now, that's my experience as a Canadian. But maybe it's not that deep, because maybe I'm more aware of it because I'm born and raised in it. And maybe it's different for you as a Caribbean woman, because now you've moved and you got to survive. I'm not necessarily thinking survival. I know all of the rules. I know what you're supposed to do, not supposed to do. I know that you don't just bust into somebody's house, you ring the doorbell. And you know what, come to think of it, you also know, when I think about some of the instructions that I was given when I would go and play street hockey in the neighborhood, don't go into anybody's house. You know, you have to stay outside and wait for them to come out. But those rules weren't applied with our church friends and our family. I mean, church family. You know, so I often think to myself, maybe without saying it, our parents understood that there were some rules that we didn't get, but maybe they just didn't want to like cloud us with some of the challenges around race and discrimination. So all they did just to keep it safe was don't go into anybody's house.
Wow, that's very insightful. Because again, because of who I was, I would always fight it. You know, don't go here, don't do that. But I'm not thinking the way you just said. I'm thinking they just don't want me to have any fun. I'm gonna go. This is Canada. I will never forget the first time I decided, because I'm living in Canada, would never have done this in Jamaica. I said, I'm gonna say something back to my father.
What? Are you crazy?
I'm a living testimony. I'm here today only because of God's grace.
And we're grateful, because this is why the Lord gave you that kind of hue of skin.
Oh my goodness.
If you don't know, you just don't know.
I talked back to my father.
Yeah.
And let's take this opportunity, Daddy. I'm saying it publicly. I am sorry.
We're sorry.
But I don't know what came over me. It must have been the Canadian friends that I had, that are like, oh, well, I talk back to... Yeah. So I said, I'm going to talk back. And because we're in Canada, my dad didn't want to bring the same Jamaican mentality in terms of he's not going to like beat me and all that stuff. It's not like he did. He would just pinch me. But when my dad looked back at me and said, you're grounded. That's also how I knew that he was trying to change to the culture.
Hold on a second.
Wait. Because when he said grounded, I said, I don't even know what that means. Should I sit on the ground? Like, I really had no clue what it meant to be grounded.
Yeah.
So the two of us are standing there like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like, I had to process that I just talked back to my dad.
Yeah.
My first mistake.
Yeah.
He had to process that he just said, you're grounded.
Grounded.
And then we left the space and then came back to really try and figure out what just took place. Yeah. And that's when we kind of knew that the Canadian culture was trying to creep its way into our Jamaican
Because grounding
life.
is so much better than what normally happens.
To this day, I don't know what it is because we didn't do it. I didn't know what to do.
He was just trying to use words.
He said, I've heard the people say it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
Didn't work out too well.
So then as a family though, aside from moving geographically, what were some of the other noticeable changes that you guys would have observed, experienced in your Canadian experience from then and maybe all the way up until now? Because you do not sound Jamaican.
I know. One of the biggest changes for me to process was that I could wear regular clothes to school.
Oh, that's right. No uniform.
What? You mean every day I could pick out my own clothes?
Yeah.
Threw me off. I spent years ironing my white shirt and my blue tunic to go to Mabay High.
Now, is that
not Mabay High, Baxter Primary School.
Childhood labor camps in Jamaica?
Unbelievable. No.
Sorry.
And I had my white shirt and my gray tunic for my Mabay High uniform. I had my gray, my green uniform for DRB Grant. I'm going back to infant school. Wow. So all my life, once you're in school, you're wearing uniform. Did I mix up my uniforms?
Oh, it's fine. But
anyways,
I think the point is that you weren't dressed like this.
I wasn't in casual clothes.
Yeah.
So I think that also threw my parents because now you mean for tell me said that I have to go spend more money for buy clothes because I can't wear the same clothes every day.
Yeah.
So now the amount of school days, I'm like, I need clothes. I need clothes for such a time as this.
Yeah.
So that was like really through us. And then that's a public school, and I guess if I went to a private school, then I'd have to wear a uniform. But so that's one thing. Church is different up here than it is back home.
Please tell me.
Yeah, because
you know what, Jamaicans, they try to make it seem like church in Jamaica was like one level lower than where the angels worship in heaven. Like,
I can see it.
See what?
I can see it. I can see why.
Okay, go ahead and tell us then. What's the difference?
Honestly, you know how they say church is the place where you're supposed to feel 100% comfortable and you can go in and talk to anybody, tell your story, and prayer gonna go up and you're gonna be healed and fixed and whatever.
Yeah.
I felt that more in Jamaica than I do up here.
Okay.
And I think it's a culture thing because you know that in Jamaica, if you're doing something wrong, and you go to sister so-and-so and say, this and this happened, she's going to say, well, you're the fool for doing X, Y, Z, but I'm still going to pray for you. Up here, you go tell sister so-and-so, and it's not to say that, people in Jamaica still don't talk, because it may go to somebody else, but I feel like there's more judgment up here in terms of, but you shouldn't have done that, and how dare you, and sister so-and-so did rather than kind of like the reprimand and then...
So what about the style of worship though?
Oh, the style of worship, 100% different. So
100%?
Okay, maybe not 100%, 99.9.
I want to know how could it be 100%
I'll be plural.
When it's the same Caribbean people who are like...
Up here that are trying to lead?
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that, but because they had to conform to the culture and change who they are.
So are you saying these ones up here are like bootleg Christians?
The ones up here soft. they're not as hard. Like,
yeah, okay, go ahead.
If you watch like West Jamaica Conference or East Jamaica Conference right now, even during COVID, the type of worship you see there versus what you see up here, you're just like, boy, and imagine this is a third world country, and look at them go, and up here first world and can't even mash hands good. I'm so sorry. Look at us up here as a first world country, and we can't produce the same amount as a third world country.
But that's also because you guys don't have like a social life out there. So all you do is rehearse like for church on Saturday.
Oh no, that's a myth. I don't know where you're getting it. Remember, he's Canadian born, so we can't trust the things he says about Jamaica.
That's right. So when we were down here like playing during the week, you guys were like doing 3 and 4 part harmony.
No, we still played in the week. Sing, keep singing. What comes next?
No, I'm just saying.
The rest of the lyrics?
It doesn't matter. You
That's
know the rest of the lyrics.
Thing. As Jamaicans, I mean, maybe it's just a Caribbean thing because I encounter like Trinidadians and they know their hymns, they know their scriptures. No shade on like the Canadian culture, but I know that in Jamaica, I knew so many more hymns, all from the old hymnal. Up here, the old
hymnal, have one, the one that was red,
which is the new hymnal, because they don't sing the old hymnal songs. So when we came up here and my mom went up to do song service one day and she started singing a song, would you believe the saints looked at her like, that's not even a hymn? But the old saints,
yeah, but if that old hymn was as good as you're making it seem, we wouldn't have made a new hymn.
No, but because the new hymnal was only made, it's just like you have the different versions of the Bible. Why are the different versions of the Bible made? Not for profit?
Yeah, but
these
I'm
things
just saying
are just
that
for profit.
The Bible,
I don't know if you're realizing, but because I feel like I'm being attacked.
Who's attacking you?
No one's attacking me.
Look at your body language. You're like
I'm being attacked.
Sit back on the whole chair.
You know, you'll realize that I may code switch. Don't hold it against me.
Yeah.
But he's really trying to come from my culture.
No, I'm not coming for the culture.
And the fact that we as Jamaicans, we do things differently than Canadians do. And you know what? I wish I could call a friend and tag in my mom.
Yeah, but you don't have a digi-cell. You don't have a digi-cell.
But that's another thing.
Can I also say this? Instead of you zooming into the camera, if you sit back, then Akeem can zoom.
The chair's hot now.
You're not the technology. That's the technology.
Yes,
now,
you're right.
Now, let me just be honest with you. The reason why I'm asking is because I just find that, and we're not going to talk about church for this whole thing in terms of the Canadian experience, it just seems as though something was lost.
Yes.
You know, so when I hear you even say that, you know, like your dad, the grounding, that's him now beginning to integrate and change and become a part of this Canadian culture. Some of the staples, or at least the principles, I mean, I think Jamaica has the most amount of churches anywhere in the world, not just Adventist churches, but churches.
Every street, I think.
So like basically, every street is a church. I say to myself, if the religious experience is so important to the Caribbean experience, why then, when Caribbean people come to Canada, do they all of a sudden, so that you'll feel comfortable, turn fool? I've got the answer. Be foolish. If you can't beat them, join them. Because you can't expect Donovan, my father, and his... You're allowed to call your dad by his first name? Can you please call him Mr... No, not to his face, because he says, man, I'm a friend. But you know that YouTube is free and he'll see this. Yes, okay, but then I love you, Daddy. All right, Donovan. Yes, so Donovan and the females in his life, being my mother, my sister, and myself, we can't come to Canada and try and change it. I mentioned the thing with, you know, my mom and singing the hymn and how standoffish that was. Yeah. Now, even if she continued and, you know, taught the church the hymn, eventually but that would take time, and that requires you to, you know, stay at the same church, because then if you move to a different church, then you're back in the same predicament. Now, there are other Adventist Jamaicans who have come up here before us, or even just Christian Jamaicans that have come up here before us, and they too may have lost the Christian culture. Some of their identity. So it didn't necessarily trickle down. So I don't think it's, I mean, I know you're not blaming us or anything, but I think, and if you are, then, you know, talk to me later, off screen, off camera. Okay. But I think that, you know, it's up to us as a people. So our leadership, if they really, because our leadership aren't they Caribbean? Yeah, we have Caribbean. If they really wanted to see it, I'm sure they could have
implemented steps or done some sort of stuff, but clearly they don't.
But you know what? I think where you've gone is a little bit unfair, and let me just tell you why. And fine, no problem. You'll get over it, or we can edit it out depending on whether or not we come to blows over this thing. But the reality is that I've always been told how strong Caribbean culture is, right?
Yes.
And the truth is, it looks strong at the social, and not everybody's going to understand what the social is. The social is like our equivalent of the don't go messing with the country boy, that kind of ring song.
Yes.
That's what we called our social. And the reality is that in those moments, in the Caribbean Black experience, you could see it because the music was loud, the rhythm was there, and the women were in the kitchen making dumpling and ackee and saltfish and festival and Mobby was there, and Sorrow was there, and banana chips was deep fried, and the patties, right? And in those days, look, you guys don't even know what real patties are. And look, 100%. Big up to Randy's and Allen's patties. But look, when we grow up around patties, there was a lady, like, I don't know where it's almost like there was like a military for patties, and they would be in there. They'd put the meat in the patty, and remember the wide fork, and they would just jam the fork into the side of the. Lord have mercy, I need one of those patties. But what I'm saying is, for a culture as strong as Caribbean culture is, Jamaican culture is, it's just been interesting to see within 40-something years how watered down it seems to be.
I hear that.
Even when Caribbean people are with each other in their own vernacular, slowly but surely I'm starting to hear them sound more like the Canadian Caribbean me.
Yeah.
Right? And even sometimes when somebody's like talking patois, you'll even see some people look and be like, you've been here so long, and you're still holding on to the patois. And I'm saying that in terms of the Canadian experience, even though we often say it's diverse. If it was that diverse, then I don't think that
we would
Donovan and Lorna, right? And Laughlin, right? And whatever your mom's name is. Rosetta. See, we're calling everybody by their first name today. There wouldn't have been this desire or this natural move away from this is who we are to who we have become.
But could you then not relate it back to code switching? Or even, to excel within this culture, you may now have to do certain things, right? So I actually got a message from someone today who watched the last video who said, no matter where I am, as long as I'm around my family, the patois is going to roll. No matter what, because that's my connection to my culture. And most of my family, they're Caribbean, they're born in Jamaica and then they come up here. And I agreed with that. But I'm sure just the same for her, because now she's had kids up here. Her parents aren't going to treat the grandkids the same way.
I think it's this sense of I have arrived. And I think and when I say I have arrived, remember, you're allowed to disagree with me. I just think that because there has always been this undertow of, if I can get to the United States or if I can get to Canada, I will have left something that is third world. And again, third world is relative, right? Because I've been to some places that people call it third world. I've been to Jamaica, and yes, you have some places where there's extreme poverty, but there are some places that definitely can match. Like, I mean, my experience is in Mandeville, Jamaica. When you go to Mandeville, Jamaica, you see some houses you've never seen anywhere else on the planet. And here's what I'm saying. I think that part of this Canadian dream, because that's where we started, the idea that in order to live the dream, you have to lose some of your reality, I think that's part of my issue with the Canadian dream. And it's not that we sit down and have a conversation that says, hey, when we get there, let's stop speaking our dialect, let's stop eating our food, let's change the way that we talk. I don't think that there's a caucus of people that say, this is what we're now going to give up. But because the culture here is so strong.
Yes.
We're fed that we are multicultural, but really it's a melting pot.
I agree 100% because it wasn't necessarily said that, you know, we will no longer speak patois everywhere we go or sound Jamaican and we're going to start to twang, speak proper, speak like the Canadians that are here, take on the accent type of thing.
Sure.
But it was kind of something that went without saying. You know, it was something where, you know, my dad and watching my parents go out to get jobs and all this type of stuff, you saw that it's not like my dad could go into a place and talk about an experience that may have happened in Jamaica where, you know, any Jamaican would have been able to click and say, at Church Street, but it was a matter of, okay, now I need to come with something different, something that would be acceptable and appropriate here.
Yeah.
So I understand and I agree, yes. We have watered down because when I went back to Jamaica 2017, before I left Canada, my dad said, "No, make nobody take it for fool, you know. If you go at airport, make sure you say you talk patois and I'm thinking to myself, I can try my best, but I know that I'm not going to sound
you don't have that patois anymore.
Exactly. No. I know that I don't sound the way I did when I was 12 and I first came up here. I
actually think that your patois is as good as my patois, and I'm not even born there.
And I take offense.
As we were.
Okay. So I know that even though he was saying that to let them think and let them know that I was from there, I couldn't do that.
Right.
But what I did do when they came up to me and they're like, "Oh, you must be from foreign or whatever," and I told them straight up, I said, "No, I went to Barracks Road and I know exactly where the school is."
And they just walked away from
exactly because now they realize, okay, she is one of us. She just talk better than the rest of us, you know. So now probably in their mind they're thinking she must think that she better than the rest of we because I'm talking proper, but that's not it. I didn't want to go down there and fake the patois because then that's kind of
it's kind of whack.
Then they're like looking at me like, no, you're not one of us. So I was able to speak my experience.
So can I ask you this question? Because now that you're married, and because you're Jamaican, I could say this out loud. And I'm sure that Akeem will write something in the message part of the thing. A portion of him is one of you, and then he has another portion that's from another place.
Yes.
Where is it again? Trinidad? Barbados?
No. He's Guyanese.
Oh, yeah, same thing. So he's part Caribbean and then part South American.
Yes.
And I'm just joking because I know that the Guyanese, they're going to come at me. Don't come at me, please. I don't want to get any death threats through TMI.
Mercy.
But in your pot at home.
Yeah.
Because we're still talking about the Canadian experience. When you say, I'm going to make something for my husband who is both Guyanese and Jamaican, as part of this Canadian experience, what are you going to put on your stove when you're like, yo, man, we're going to eat some food? What are you,
Let's
what
talk
are you
about
cooking?
It. So as much as he's a half Jamaican, he claims Jamaican. He's like I am Jamaican. Yes.
Oh, okay.
He claims it. So he will want the ground provisions and all this stuff. But then when I go around the Guyanese side of the family, sometimes I'm thrown off because they have this thing called pot something. Pepper pot.
Yeah, you can't look at me.
I know. I don't know why I looked at you.
What? Okay, I can be Guyanese for this discussion.
And I'm like, what is this? What is this pepper pot thing? And
but that thing is so
explain
good.
it.
Yeah, I think it's good.
I don't think I've ever had it. I don't think
Never?
I've had it. No.
You're missing out. Pepper pot is the truth. Listen, if you have some pepper, sorry, I'm just digressing. If you have some pepper pots with some mobby, and that mobby has to be like ice cold. Like, you know what? You're not ready. You're not ready. She's not ready.
Listen.
Don't listen. She doesn't speak for all of us Jamaicans.
I have a church auntie. Auntie Ann, I'm calling you out.
Auntie
and she love a mobby.
Oh, mobby is the truth.
I'll never forget the first time I tried the mobby. We were at church and she's like, "Here, Deandra, take something." I said, "What is this?" She said, "It's juice." I said, "Oh, juice." Yeah, man. When I drank it, I felt like my insides were crying out, saying, "Why me, Lord?"
That might be a digestive tract thing. Listen,
unbelievable.
Mobby, I love mobby to the point where, look, the thicker it is, like I love, look, anybody that's Guyanese in Toronto, holler at me. I'm at 1090 Bellamy Road North.
Unbelievable.
The mobby that I love, it's sweet and thick, almost to the point where you could use it to lay tiles. That's the kind of mobby that I'm talking about.
We're not telling you right now to have mobby because I don't want you to experience what I experienced and then say, The people from TMI, Sir Dre and Didi, said that I should try Mobby. I did not say such a thing.
Can you please zoom back again? You're zooming forward again. Thanks. Woo. We can feel the whatever it is. So this is the thing. Part of the Canadian experience has also been not just the integration between black and white, but it's also the integration of the different islands.
Yes.
You know, and here it is. In less than one generation, you're married to somebody who has Jamaican and Guyanese roots.
Yep.
And also, I'm married to somebody who has U.S. roots, and I'm Canadian with Jamaican parents.
Yep.
And I think this is part of the experience.
Could it also be part of the watering down?
Yeah,
of the culture? Because you're now trying to mix different cultures.
Yeah.
And so I'm mixing my Jamaican with the Guyanese.
Yeah.
But we also have to remember the Canadian culture to be Canadian in spite of all of that, so that you can still, so you won't be seen as like a what, like standoffish or somebody that doesn't belong in the country filled with multicultural.
You know
people,
what I would like to see more of though, Didi, is just this. I just want to see that as Caribbean people, we don't lose our roots. I mean, we're already disconnected
physically,
geographically.
Yes.
Right? Like you have cousins and aunts and uncles and whatever out there where if you decide to have your own family and children and stuff like that, Jamaica's not a cheap flight. Right? So even with that, it's even hard to remain connected to your roots because you can't keep going there. You're not going to keep calling them on WhatsApp for free. Look, Caribbean people, I know how you guys have cut down on your long distance bill.
Yes.
WhatsApp is not the solution for all problems. But here's what I'm saying though. I think we have to be intentional to integrate, but not to lose.
I agree.
And I think that's the greatest challenge. So whether or not I agree with the hymnals in the old book that your mother memorized all 363 plus the topics in the back plus the glossary, good for her. I mean, whatever. I was memorizing other things. Whether it's the hymnal, whether it's the lack of representation in the educational system, whether or not it's the food that we've now transitioned to, whether or not it's the different cultures that are now coming together, because it's no longer just all Jamaicans or all Trinidadians or all Guyanese or all St. Vincent. Like, we're now in this place meeting with each other. But I do want to say this, that I think the church is the place where we should still be able to be safe, to be ourselves, even though we may be Caribbean in that moment. I just don't want to see us lose everything. You know, one of the things I love about other cultures that still remain intact is no matter where they go, there are certain things culturally that they still hold on to. I find that in the Caribbean context, we have made so much importance being placed on getting here and become integrated that some of the things that make us uniquely us, we've begun to let them go.
Well, let's tag on that. So you said something about the different cultures that they, I guess, foster their culture so that no matter where they go, they are still seen as whatever that culture is. I'm going to point out the Indian culture because I have some Indian friends and I think that culture is very strong. You know, they'll come here, they'll live together, then they'll work in
South Asian, right? South Asian?
Yes.
Okay,
and they'll work for each other and all that stuff. If you look at the Jamaican culture, let's talk about that. If I come up here as a Jamaican, 9 times out of 10, I can't find a Jamaican that would hire me to then, you know, keep
or that owns
culture.
business.
Or that owns business. And then, so now I need to conform to a different culture or to tame who I am. Because if I was working for a Jamaican person, I could go in there and probably bring a patty and a cocoa bread. I could say a little 1-2 patois, they'll understand, we'll laugh about it. But now that I'm not working for my culture and I'm working for a different culture, I now have to change. So I find that that's maybe one of the reasons why we're unable to foster our culture. We don't have
but that's part of this experience, right? And I don't know, maybe we'll come back to it in our next episode, but here's the reality. We've talked a lot about some of the gains today.
Yes.
right? And yes, to some degree, this is a great place to live. But what we haven't talked about is, even though we may have come off the plane and rented a house or bought a house, we've lost a lot in the transition, right? Just this morning, I was looking at some statistics in terms of, black, white, brown, and so on and so forth. You're looking at whatever the percentage is of the population, less than 20% of them actually own businesses. So when you look at even the experience in the Caribbean, it wouldn't be uncommon for an uncle or an aunt to be a business owner, right? But they come here and now they've sold themselves, so to speak, and that's how they make their money. I give you myself, I provide a service. But the reality is that part of this Canadian experience is that we've lost some of that autonomy. We've lost some of that entrepreneurship. We've lost some of that ability to create spaces that are uniquely us. To the point where, even if you go into to some of the high-end Caribbean stores, I'm talking about food now, we don't even plate the food the way that we plate it over there. Now somebody's gonna put the rice in the cup and slide the knife across like Martha Stewart does. You're gonna put it over there, and then all of a sudden now everything has to be garnished. Look, I've been to Jamaica. My aunts, my uncles never garnished not one thing while we were there. And really, here's what we're saying. The Canadian experience, it's strong. We love it. We're happy to be here. It has created many opportunities, but we're also not in denial that part of what we've gained, we've lost. So we've had to give some things up in the process. And maybe what we're saying is, let's try and keep some of who we are uniquely alive. Let's eat some provisions at school, not in the corner. Let's have some bun and cheese at Easter time.
Run your pato.
Let's have some escovitch fish. And really, we're using the food that is uniquely ours because we're Jamaican. But this is true of Guyana, St. Vincent, Honolulu.
Trinidad and Tobago.
Not Honolulu, but you know the point that I'm making. All of the different islands, all of the different places. What we're saying is, while you migrate to this country or any other country, don't lose who you are. After we left from Jamaica, foreign and cool, greeting the people for show. Hands up to China. Hey, sit up. Now you're zooming and now you're leaning backwards. So this is us.
Thanks for watching TMI.
What does T stand for? Thought provoking.
Motivational.
Inspirational.
Thanks for watching TMI. Like, share, subscribe, comment, click the bell, share it. We love you.